Joanne, we can get started.
Ready to begin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the San Antonio Housing Authority Operations and Real Estate Committee meeting. I'm going to begin recording now.
Recording in progress.
Okay, let's start that again. Welcome everyone to the San Antonio Housing Authority Operations and Real Estate Committee meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that we are on a hybrid meeting with Zoom. For those participants that are on the phone, please remember you can mute by doing a *6 to mute and a *6 to unmute. We also have the live transcript turned to on. As a default, if you would like to manage those, you can go to the bottom of your screen under the live transcript and adjust it accordingly. I'm going to begin with the Commissioner roll call. Chairwoman Dr. Ana Cha Guzman. Vice Chair Olga Kaufman.
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert Casillas.
Present.
Commissioner Dalia Contreras.
Present.
Commissioner Lauren D. Dantzler. Commissioner Gabriel Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Ignacio Perez.
Here.
Valerie Carrillo, Board of Commissioner Attorney. As a reminder, if everyone can please press the microphone, it'll go to red so that we can have a good recording. CEO and President Ed Hinojosa Jr.
I'm here.
We welcome the interpreter Vicky Cavazos Jones. Commissioner Lopez, you may call the meeting to order.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. The Board of Commissioners or its committee may hold a closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071-076 for consultation concerning attorney-client matters, real estate litigation, personnel, and security matters. The board or committee reserves the right to enter into closed meeting at any time during the course of the meeting. Looks like we do have some items, some people signed up for public comment, correct?
No, sir, we do not have people for public comment.
Okay. Ready.
Those that have signed up are for the public hearing.
Hearing, correct.
Mhm.
Then we'll just go ahead and move into the Alazan Master Planning update. Able City.
Check this here. Good afternoon, Board. Mario Peña here with Able City. I'm here with our project manager, Seema Kaitam. So we're happy to bring you the next update, and we'll be here, I think, on a monthly basis to share the progress and what we've been doing the previous few weeks. From the last time we spoke, we have gone a bit further on phase one, which is our listening and learning phase. Seema will have some detailed figures and activities we've been doing with residents and with advocates and other stakeholders in the community. So we're very happy with the depth and we've been learning a lot about how about the community's aspirations, about the dynamics of the ecosystem around the Alazan, and we're happy to share that for you in the next few meetings as we start compiling our data in what we found in this first phase. One thing to note is we are recommending an extension of about a month, which is why in this calendar you see an April ending to our phase one. We want to augment our outreach to be a little more personal. We talked about door knocking, so we are proposing that we add that to this phase of our outreach. And then beyond that, we move into phase two. We already started coming through all of the sort of physical, the documents regarding to the physical limitations, the layouts, so that we can begin the design phase. So we're preparing all of the base documents for that, so that when we hit we work with the community on design workshops. We're ready to have conversations with with everyone to help us come up with several options in design. And then we'll move on to evaluation and feedback on our options. And then at the end, we'll be selecting, what the best option is for the community with the community. So that being said, I'll let Seema take us through some of the activities we've been helping with this first phase.
Thank you, Mario. So as we talked about the last time, we were just wrapping up our open house. We got about 45 attendees of residents and community members that sort of came to the community center to talk to us. As part of our, I think we all agree that that's not enough, but before we went back out and started the door knocking, we wanted to really understand what's going on, what are the issues. So I'll have you advance the slide. Yeah. So we've been really focusing in the last couple of weeks about with reaching out to stakeholders. So I think on the last slide it says 13. I think we're up to 15 now of one-on-one conversations. These are hour-long, potentially some of them have been 2-hour-long conversations with stakeholders from these different groups on the west side. And we've learned so much about their opinions, about the history, about the process, about what should be done, but then also talk to them a lot about how do they connect with residents, how do we create places where people feel safe and comfortable to come to those conversations, so that when we kind of regroup and start reaching out to residents again, we really go better informed about how to connect. And then also, we've been working on just building trust in the community. So we've been attending community gatherings. 2 weekends ago, there was a community gathering hosted by the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center about the Alazan courts, the next steps. And so we participated in that, really just listening and being present, showing our faces, making sure that people feel like we're approachable and accountable to the process. We also recently presented to the Historic West Side Residents Association a kind of brief introduction to the process. Just one more step of people understanding that we are starting this kind of again with some new parameters, some new commitments on Saha's behalf, and really just having people be able to ask us questions about what's going to happen. There's a lot of fear and confusion that we found, and so the more we can make ourselves available to those conversations before we put any pen to paper, so that people, when we do start designing, people feel like that they can approach us and they can be part of the process. And then kind of in addition to that, we've been sort of planning some more focused partnerships. So we've reached out to, or we had two teachers at Lanier High School, one with the Mexican American Studies elective and another architecture elective. They each have 2 classes that focus on that subject. We've been planning a partnership to go to their class and share about the Alazan court's history and the process, and then engage the students in a design workshop. We met yesterday with the program leads at SAC. So we're hoping to do a design workshop with the students there as well. So really trying to find creative ways to, address the youth, and hopefully when we do the door knocking, we'll be able to reach some of the folks who might not have been able to come to the community center. So that's more to come on that in the next couple weeks. And then I think this is my last slide. We're preparing to start our committee meetings. So we have about 25 people signed up for both, between the 2 committees. We've called them each individually to ask them what time of day is preferable for them to meet. And so we're trying to find the most appropriate time where we can get as great a participation, and trying to find a location. So we're going to try and set the time and the date for those this week, and then we can start advertising those things. So those will be more focused conversations where we'll invite residents and community members to come participate in a series of meetings. The first ones will be focused on just, again, introductions, answering questions, and then sort of thinking about the history of Alazan courts, both the broader history, the cultural history, but then also people's personal histories, and started getting into that storytelling and really kind of grounding the conversation in people's experience. So that's where we are right now, but welcome your all's questions.
Thank you. I appreciate the extra effort that you're making, and I know it's taken a little bit longer than we anticipated, but I heard some very positive comments from some people that attended the meeting at the Esperanza Center, a resident and also an advocate, and they spoke very, very favorably about the meeting and the engagement that was occurring. So I really appreciate you all making that effort.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the update. Are there any other questions?
I do want to say that I also appreciate you all taking your time and maybe taking a little more time and being able to get with the residents and hear their concerns and what they want. So thank you for that and making sure that you can reach out to as many people as you can. Thank you.
I'm really excited about the partnership with students and elevating student voice. I think that's fantastic. Thanks for doing that.
Excited about that too.
Cool. All righty, thank you. Okay, next item, we'll move to public hearing portion. Will we get the presentation first, or do we hear the public?
We'll have a presentation first, and then we can take any comments. And Richard, I don't know if you've received any online comments yet.
We have not, but we have 3 people
Okay.
prepared to speak today during the public hearing. And I'll kick off the presentation. And do I need to do something here? Okay. All right, so this is the annual MTW Moving to Work Plan discussion, presentation to the committee. We do this every year. It's part of a regular process to take the plan, to submit the plan to HUD. And I'll talk about that process in just a minute. The larger planning context from SAHA's perspective is this is an opportunity for us to move our strategic outcomes forward, because we're actually moving a number of different plans forward today. This is the first time. You will also hear it again in April as part of the full, when the full board gets together. Brief refresher on what Moving to Work is. MTW is a special designation. It's a contractual relationship between SAHA and HUD. We are given certain flexibilities that other housing authorities do not have. Specifically, 1, regulatory waivers, so we can seek and execute specific regulatory waivers, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And we also have a funding fungibility, which means that we can take different sources of funds like public housing operating subsidy, HCV block grant funding, et cetera, as listed in the gray boxes on the slide, and combine all those into one pot, that's the red circle, and then we can use those funds in a number of different ways, including operating expenses and capital improvements. Now, we can only use these flexibilities if we advance at least one of 3 statutory objectives that are defined by HUD. These are cost efficiency or cost effectiveness, increasing housing choice for low-income households or families, and supporting self-sufficiency for low-income families. And so anything we do is under one of these umbrellas. So we are, like I said, this is a standard process every year. We post for public comment right around Valentine's Day. This is our public hearing. We take comment via email, via mail, online, in person, and for the past couple of years, we've been holding virtual meetings, remote meetings, and inviting residents to participate. We had 3 last week and got some comment through that process as well. After this meeting, we will come back in April to the full board for final consideration of the plan. If the board approves, then we send the plan to HUD. HUD reviews the plan. They usually have a few questions and comments. We address those comments in the months of May and June, and then if everything goes well, we're ready to implement July 1. So here's the heart of the matter from the MTW perspective. We are proposing one new MTW activity, that means a regulatory waiver, and we are changing an existing one in a significant way, so we're resubmitting it to HUD for review. So starting at the top of the page, the alternate recertification process, this is the one that we first got approved by HUD in 2019. We're making some changes to it. Currently, we have households that on fixed incomes are on a 3-year recertification schedule. Everyone else is on a 2-year recertification schedule. Our proposal is to move everybody to triennial recertifications for all public housing and all HCV families. For HCV households, payment standards will be applied to current families in between recertification, so they won't have to wait for the recertification for payment standards to apply. The new MTW activity that we're proposing is called Property-Based Local Non-Traditional Rental Subsidy Program. The short title is that we're trying to create a public housing-like program that has all the benefits of the public housing program, but that is funded through Section 8. And so this allows, what we're proposing is something that has the income-based rents of public housing, the tenant protections of public housing, and the equitable screening practices of public housing, but funding it in a different way. And so we're proposing this as the new MTW activity. So those are the two changes significant changes that we're proposing for the MTW plan itself. In the asset management plan and the CFP, which we submit to HUD as part of the MTW plan as well, you will see the plans for over $23 million in capital repairs over the next 5 years to 37 properties and approximately 3,200 housing units. Beacon's 5-year plan includes $22 million in capital repairs at 28 properties and 4,000 units. We also include an expansion plan, and that has 4,000 units in the construction pipeline, as well as an additional 1,200 to 1,300 units that are in early planning and pre-development phases. All right, so at this stage, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Susan, who will talk to us about proposed changes to the FSS action.
Can I ask a quick question real quick on
Sure.
something you spoke about? On the alternate recertification process, I know that it's been like triennial or biannual if you are on a fixed income, but you're talking about changing it to triennial for everybody, even if they have another job
Correct.
where their income fluctuates,
That's right.
so everybody would be the same.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Ramos-Osman. I'm the Assistant Director for CDI, and I'd like to share the proposed changes we have for this year for our FSS action plan. Currently, our FSS program, we have a 5-year contract of participation. So currently, the process for withdrawing from the program was kind of an informal way. We would wait for them to be not active for 3 months, and then we would initiate the process for ending their contract. We're wanting to take a more deliberate approach, and we're proposing that in order to terminate the contract of participation, that we do it in 2 ways. A family will submit a request to withdraw from the program, or a family will fail to reply within 10 business days to a certified letter from staff to the family. Now, note that the certified letter would only be sent out after they've been inactive for 30 days. So we would try, via email, phone, in person, even a home visit, to engage the participant. If we do not get any response within 30 days, we would initiate a certified letter, and we will send that out, wait 10 days, no response, then we would end the contract. If they respond, they would keep going and we keep serving them. So that's the only proposed change we have. Any questions? Okay, I will turn it over to Krista now, who will share additional proposed changes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kristen Carrion. I'm the Assistant Director of Operations Support. I'm going to be presenting the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 changes that we will be making to the admissions and continued occupancy plan, which is our public housing program policy, and our administrative plan, which is our housing choice voucher program policy. So we'll begin with changes that affect both the public housing program and the housing choice voucher program. So the first change is regarding our criminal history screening policy. So HUD allows us to deny applicant families for any criminal history that comes up on their record. So we've established a look-back period screening criteria grid that splits up different offenses based off of their severity. And so we have a 7-year look-back period right now, a 5-year look-back period, and then a 3-year look-back period. And so those more serious offenses fall into the 7-year look-back period. And I should also clarify that we do not deny based off of the offenses alone. So we only deny if those offenses have resulted in a conviction. So this change clarifies the distinction between misdemeanor and felony offenses for violent criminal activity and drug-related criminal activity, so that felony offenses carry a longer look-back period than for misdemeanor offenses. Additionally, SAHA has removed some minor infractions from the grid. For example, if someone receives a single conviction for a DWI or a misdemeanor drug possession charge, that will no longer be denied. So what we're looking for really is a pattern of offenses that resulted in a conviction or other misdemeanor offenses. This next change that applies to both programs, and Richard spoke about it because it applies to our MTW program, is regarding triennial recertification. So as he said, all current residents will be moved to a triennial recertification schedule. Okay, and these next few changes are for a public housing program only. So the first change is regarding and impacts applicant families in regards how we determine their unit size. So we will be assigning bedrooms for foster children only if they will be in the unit for more than 6 months. So this change actually aligns with our Housing Choice Voucher program and how we determine voucher size. In addition to that, we will be updating our process for security deposits and how we provide that notice of changes to the security deposit amount when they move out of the unit. So this, right now, we provide notice of the security deposit amount and how much that has been applied to any move-out charges within 10 business days, and now that will align with the Texas Property Code of 30 days from the date of move-out. We are also updating the language regarding occupancy standard transfers. So at the moment, we do transfer residents based off of occupancy standards. So if someone removes a family member from their household and they no longer qualify for that unit, they actually would, according to our occupancy standards, receive a smaller unit bedroom size. We do transfer them. But since we would like to reduce the amount of displacements for our families, we're actually going to be trying to keep them in that unit and not transferring them to a new unit. So yes.
Can you repeat what you said about the transfer again? I mean, so if they're This has to do with if they're in a unit and want to transfer to another unit because of problems, or is this like if they're in a smaller unit, need a larger unit? Or is it if they're in a larger unit and their family size goes down that they won't be transferred from that larger unit to a smaller unit now?
Correct. So it would apply to that last example where they're in a larger bedroom size unit, but they qualify for a smaller. So we will allow them to keep that larger bedroom size unit to reduce that displacement, unless for some reason we really need, that 4-bedroom size unit in order to serve another family, and we have identified another 3-bedroom that would work for that family.
Because wouldn't that take away from a family waiting for a larger unit to come in or something if they don't need to transfer because circumstances changed?
Correct. So our UAC will be monitoring the transfers waiting list and the applicant waiting list to ensure that if we really do need that larger bedroom size unit, then we will have that family transfer in order to offer that unit.
So does that mean that it won't result in an automatic transfer unless a need comes up, and then we'll work, because I appreciate the non-displacement, right? You build your community, you build your network, you build your friendships, you build your safety, and then you have to move. So that's nice to not be automatic. But to Commissioner Casillas's point, like if there is a need and there's an ability to make an adjustment to support a family, it's still going to be possible even with this change.
Correct. So we're changing the language to say that we may transfer them to allow for that.
So is there a lot of 3-bedroom units available, or?
I think we do have a good amount of 3-bedroom available. I think there's more concern on those larger bedroom size where we may
Like
not
4
have as
bedrooms?
many.
Concern, you mean, what do you mean concern?
Well, I guess to your question, we would have, we do find that we have quite a bit of 3 bedrooms where we can offer those units to those families that need them. And so that's where, where we wouldn't have too much of a concern where we wouldn't be serving a family, but we would be monitoring all the units and monitoring the transfer waiting list, monitoring the applicant waiting list to ensure that we are serving those that need that unit size. So this next change applies to our Jobs Plus participants. So Jobs Plus is going to be implemented at Lincoln Heights. And so, for those participants that would like to enroll in the Jobs Plus Earned Income Disregard program, we just want to ensure that they report all of their increases in income, because any increases in income are automatically disregarded to allow for that benefit to encourage them to continue to increase their income, gain new employment, and we don't want to raise their rent amount during that participation. So we just wanted to clarify in the policy that we will be processing all increases in income, specifically with the Jobs Plus Earned Income Disregard. So these next few changes apply to the public housing lease. The first being that we are clarifying in our language in the lease that that garage and yard sales may be allowed only when sponsored by property management. So this is a policy that we already implement at the properties. We're just adding it to the lease to be very clear what our policy is on that.
So it can't be sponsored by the resident councils anymore like it used to be. It has to be, the property managers have to now sponsor these yard sales or garage sales within the properties.
I can ask about the resident council sponsorship. I think what we just want to be aware of is, as a property, that this is happening, that has been communicated to us, and so that we know that other visitors from outside of the property will be coming through the property and visiting. So we just want to be aware of that communication, but I can definitely follow up on whether that would apply to resident councils as well, and clarify that language.
Thank you.
So we are also updating the language in the lease to make it clear that we prohibit the display or use of legal firearms on Saha property. At the moment, the lease states that we prohibit the display or use of illegal firearms on Saha property, and we want to ensure that that applies to legal firearms as well. This change to the lease adds an additional process for grievances titled or called an informal conference. So this is an appeal that can take place at the property directly with the property manager before it comes to an informal hearing. So we want to encourage these appeals to happen at the property and for the property managers to be involved in those appeals. And so we are adding this additional process within the grievance procedure.
On the firearm thing, so there's people in our public housing units that have firearms, and they disclose that when they apply, or what?
I would have to check if they're required to disclose that, but since they may have legal ownership of firearms, we just want to ensure that our residents feel safe and that
So you don't know how many firearms there are?
Thank you, Kristen, for that. So, Commissioner, we do not require our residents to disclose firearms. So what this is really addressing is on-site where people can see them, so walking through the community where other residents may not feel safe.
So they can't be flashing their gun while they're walking?
Correct. We ask that, it still be, concealed. We know that Texas laws have changed, but what we're asking is when you're on our communities that it not be necessarily seen.
And the managers know who has firearms?
No, we do not. We do not require our residents to disclose that.
And has that come up in the past that you don't require that disclosure, or you never have?
It has not. So, and it has not. I think in the past, some residents you would love for us to ask a lot of questions of some of our residents, and we try to be mindful of privacy. What much of our residents are asking is more about, out of safety, I don't want to see people walking around in the public where, maybe their child can see a firearm.
Right,
In other words, no open carry.
No open carry, and so we have no idea how many licensed firearms.
No, because we do not ask that.
So it could be unlicensed, and you wouldn't know that either.
The Texas laws have changed, so yes. So we do not require our residents to disclose that.
I just want to add, Commissioner Ignacio, that through the Constitution of the United States, everybody has the right to have a weapon in their home and carry it from their home to their car as long as it's concealed. So you don't need a license to do that, and that's under the Constitution.
Right.
So, and some people that do carry, they may let their offices know that they have a weapon in their home, but most don't.
There's a question in the back. Ed?
Yeah, but it's not the time for a question.
Pardon me?
There was a hand raised in the back. Commissioner Bettis had noticed. But go ahead, you can carry.
This next change updates the pet deposit amount from $200 to $150. Additionally, if there's an unauthorized pet fee that needs to be applied, then that amount will be $150 as well. So we're lowering that amount. And these last few changes will be for the Housing Choice Voucher Program specifically. So this update is to our payment standard application for increased payment standards. So because we are moving to triennial recertification, we know that time from updating the payment standard, because that typically happens at recertification, will be increased. So we want to allow for some relief for our residents by applying that increased payment standard amount at any approved request for rental increases, so that Saha can also, in addition to, potentially increasing the landlord's rent, also increase the amount that we may be able to assist with their housing assistance payments. This language is clarifying that we will accept clear and legible photos or digital scans of original documents, and our staff will be reviewing those documents to ensure that they are clear and legible. This next update is removing language permitting landlords to self-certify housing quality standard inspections. So at the moment, we allow this for 5 or less failed items in a unit following a physical inspection. But because this was resulting in having staff go out again to the property to do another physical inspection because landlords were not sending the requested information, self-certifying that those failed items had been fixed, then we are removing that language and just moving back to the follow-up physical inspections. This next change is adding language to address emergency transfer procedures in the moderate rehabilitation program. So if someone is a victim and has a VAWA victim status, we will be offering a housing choice voucher in order to move them to a safe location. This next change clarifies that we will allow for other supportive housing in regards to our move-on program. So at the moment, we state in that MTW activity that we will provide a voucher to those individuals who are moving on from permanent supportive housing specifically, but by adding other supportive housing, we can also address other types of housing in San Antonio, including rapid rehousing. Okay. And that concludes my part of the presentation.
So just to reiterate that this is the first time that you're hearing this, and then we'll come back in April for the final board hearing, and then we will submit it to HUD, and then that whole process I described before. And for the April meeting, we will have, as part of the we will have a comprehensive sort of feedback report of everything we heard from our meetings and otherwise. So
So Richard, let me just clarify. This is like a first draft. It's possible we may have some additional changes between now and April 6th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Also, just to mention, I know I have a meeting, and Richard does as well, scheduled with some resident advocates they want to provide additional input about the lease
Feedback.
agreements. So we'll be collecting that data as well.
Good, okay.
That was one of my questions, like what have we heard so far in public comment? So it sounds like in April, we'll receive a comprehensive brief of here's what we heard, here's how it's, what we're acting on, maybe what we're not acting on and why, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's we do that every year, and we fold it into the plan, and so we can pull it out and share it with you as well, or put a spotlight on it. The public comment is ongoing through the next few minutes, and so we haven't done a review yet.
Okay. I have a couple more questions, but I want to share airtime. Does anyone ask them? Okay.
Go ahead.
I saw a list of capital improvements, and I think it's I think it was a 5-year capital improvement plan. So my wondering was, somewhere else, do we have a master capital improvement plan that has everything? And then there's a process for prioritization that, just the background of understanding, like what made it to the list, how do we prioritize?
So we go through that as part of our budgeting process annually. And we've already started that process. I believe there's a meeting scheduled between Brandy and the asset management people and construction in the near future to talk about how much we're getting on our capital grant, how much funding we have available, and how we would begin to make investments. So that's regarding the federal programs. For the non-federal programs, Beacon Community, usually that approach is related to refinancing a property, and then we develop a plan for how to refinance it and what investment that property needs. So those are the two separate approaches that come to the board. So we'll be seeing a more comprehensive capital plan as part of the budgeting process.
Okay, great. I saw there was a section in the brief that was for time-limited workforce pilot program. And I just was curious about, there's been a lot of talk in the education space about housing for teachers and the number of teachers that are living in poverty. And so I didn't see them as a specific group of, partners. I saw nursing, I saw other places. So I just wondered if there was any potential in exploring a partnership within the education field, especially considering 66%, I think was the latest report of teachers nationally, are considering leaving the workforce after this year. Many of them are living in poverty. And so housing as a city, right, how do we ensure that if you're a teacher in San Antonio, there's an incentive to keep you here and to help, mitigate some of those things like housing and basic needs?
I think that's a great idea, Commissioner. We have partnered with the school districts in the past on attendance issues for, kids. We've partnered with Alamo colleges to help homeless college students, but we have not had a conversation around teachers. I think that's something we could certainly pick up.
Okay. Then the only other thing I saw was on 5.1B, it was determining the unit size, and it was particularly a foster student for foster children. And it said, that if the child was only going to be there for less than 6 months, that it wouldn't be taken into consideration. So I just was curious, how do we work with families who may be continual foster families, like they've committed to doing that, and they might have multiple children come in and out of their household throughout the year because they happen to be assigned children who are really trying to get, reconnected with their, birth parents. So that was the only place that I thought that policy could actually hurt a family who is chosen to be a support structure in the foster care system.
Kristen?
Well, I know that the staff are usually good about working with the agencies that that foster child may have been sponsored through in order to determine, what are the next steps. So even though the policy is kind of outlined in a really clear-cut way, there's a lot of back and forth that happens in those situations where, it may be that there's a contingency for that birth parent to have that foster child return, their child return. And so that's kind of where there's some of...
So there's room to learn more and
there's some flexibility there, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Richard, on your policy on the changes online on the website, I was noticing also that you're removing weapons offense within 7 years and family violence, domestic violence within 7 years. Does that mean because it's going to probably be covered within assault or deadly conduct felony?
Yes, that's correct. So that applies now under assault felony. So that's just to clarify, because when we receive those actual records back, that's what it will say. And then it'll have the description of family violence or domestic violence. So it's just to clarify, but those offenses will still be denied.
And the weapons, does that fall under deadly conduct? Or?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions, thank you.
Nothing, we're good. Thank you, Richard.
So I think we need to open the public hearing. I think at this point, if there are no further questions.
Correct, we have three.
Commissioner Lopez, we have 3 individuals that signed up online, but that I believe are present. I'll begin calling them. Steve Papoon.
My apologies, I signed up in the wrong category. This should have been in public comment. Anyway,
That's right.
sorry about that. My wife and daughter are going to lend me their time. Good afternoon, my name is Steve Papoon, and I'm an affiliated affordable housing developer. The cornerstone of a stable family life is the opportunity to live in a safe, healthy, clean living environment. I would like to give you some background regarding how we structure our transactions. Hogan Properties Company and my company have built or are building 14 affordable housing communities, totaling almost 4,000 units in the San Antonio area. Our typical community is a $65 million investment in the area. These developments have created thousands of jobs, generated hundreds of millions of dollars in payroll, paid $20 million in impact fees and building permits to local and state governments, and created 4,000 new, modern, affordable, energy-efficient homes for single moms, working families, senior citizens, veterans, and the disabled. We are extremely proud of the 3 communities we're building for Saha. Majestic Ranch, 288 units, Mira Vista, 312 units, and Bristol at Somerset, 348 units. Elan Gardens, 228 units, was completed in 2009 for a total of 1,176 units. The Affordable Housing Program is a financing vehicle for multifamily construction. It is an extremely effective way to create partnerships between public and private entities. To my knowledge, there is no other city, county, state, or federal program that creates jobs, revitalizes neighborhoods, and provides modern, affordable, energy-efficient homes and makes money for the government entity. This permits the Housing Authority to expand the housing stock at no cost or obligation. Our typical deal structure is to find a site, put it under contract, do preliminary due diligence, and then bring it to Saha or another government entity. After approval, we put up all the pursuit costs, which are several $100,000, apply to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for the bonds, design the project, obtain all the government permits and approvals, arrange the financing structure, provide all the guarantees, build the property, fill it up, and hand you the keys. We take no ownership interest or partnership interest. We share the development fee with you, and we do not participate in the cash flow. As can be seen from the typical development process that you have in my handout, the developer does all the work and undertakes a substantial financial risk. If the transaction fails prior to closing, the out-of-pocket exposure could be in excess of $1 million, which is the sole obligation of the developer. The attached schedule of benefits from Bristol at Somerset, Majestic Ranch, and Mira Vista demonstrate the value of the communities to Saha's mission. Its share of the developer fee alone is approximately $5 million. Saha also receives the projected cash flow over 15 years, which amounts to $30 million. Saha also received a bond issuer fee on both Bristol and Somerset and Mira Vista Ranch. We built 100% of the units at 60% of AMI. We do this for maximum flexibility in renting. A 60% unit can be rented at 50%, 40%, 30%, or even lower. The income of the tenant determines the amount they will pay. If you restrict to only 30% units, you may have to turn away other prospective tenants who are also low to moderate income. You are the owner of the property, so you can rent at any level below 60%, so long as you meet the lender requirements. We employ the latest innovations in design and construction, utilizing low-maintenance, energy-efficient building materials. Several of our communities, including Elan Gardens, have won awards for design and construction excellence, and we build to San Antonio Green standards. These are gated communities, and the residents enjoy extensive amenities, common area features, and residence services. They're very heavily regulated as to unit mix, construction methods, and materials. All residents undergo criminal background and credit checks and must qualify financially. The number of people living in each unit is strictly controlled. All our properties are designed with a minimum of 7% handicapped units, and in one community we developed for San Antonio Housing Trust, the entire first floor, 84 units, are handicapped accessible. Affordable housing communities are built to the same building codes, specifications, and regulations as market rate developments. The property maintains large capital reserves which are replenished annually for remodeling and improvements. We must submit certified audits each year and are inspected annually by the state, the lender, and the equity partner. The high quality of construction revitalizes neighborhoods and encourages other properties to make capital improvements to compete. The financial impact goes beyond just the construction of the development. These communities permit a city to attract major employers and to house workers already employed in the area. The demand for these units is extraordinary, and the shortage of housing and the influx of residents from out of state makes it almost desperate. The affordable housing properties managed by HomeSpring, which are 100% affordable at 60% of AMI, are 97% plus occupied all the time, plus they have a waiting list. Pre-leasing is so strong that the property is typically 100% full upon completion. It is not unusual to lease 40 to 50 units per month, and in one property we moved in 200 families in 2 months. This housing is absolutely critical to many families. Most live paycheck to paycheck, juggling expenses between health care, food, transportation, etc. We actually have residents who live in our properties who do not turn on their air conditioning in the summertime because they can't afford it. And energy costs, as we all know, are continuing to skyrocket. Living in an affordable housing community saves the typical family about $6,000 per year, the equivalent of a $3 an hour raise, tax-free. These savings can be used for education, health care, to buy a home, etc. Once the individual or family income qualifies, they do not have to move out if their income goes up. They can stay and build financial stability. San Antonio is a military town. There are over 200,000 veterans living in the San Antonio area, of whom 74,000 are retired. 28,000 veterans locally have some form of disability. We market to over 50 veterans organizations here. San Antonio is also home to 60% of the 50,000 plus men and women returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. This is approximately 30,000 veterans. And 93% of them are enlisted personnel. This housing is a perfect transition for them to civilian life. I hope we will have the opportunity to create more of these communities to further Saha's mission. Any question? Yes, sir.
No, thank you for the,
Oh,
for the presentation. I appreciate the handout.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the public hearing and the individuals that have signed up. And I also want to note for the record that Dr. Ana Guzman has joined us. Jesse Lara?
Good afternoon, Commissioners and CEO Hinojosa. I have gone through this plan and I have 3 observations right now. There's more, but I only have 3 because of the time limit on me. The first is I think that the 3-year recertification is excellent. I really do. These recertifications take an awful lot of time. I live at Opie Schnabel Apartments, so I think that the 3-year recertification is an excellent change. And I had a question about when this was going to start, and Mr. Milk answered it in his comments on July the 1st, after everybody hears the plan and it's sent to HUD. So I hope that that will happen by July the 1st. And another question that this brings up is, what happens to the recertifications that are due now? For example, mine, will I have to wait until you all hear if it's going to be approved or not? And then moving along to page 33 of the plan, the 4-to-1 elderly ratio for some of the properties. This activity is ongoing, excuse me, and allows the agency to increase housing choices for elderly residents at selected housing properties. And then coming down a little bit, the goal of the activity is to address continuing concerns of elderly residents at specific communities regarding lifestyle conflicts between elderly and non-elderly residents. I don't see any difference between the elderly and non-elderly and elderly conflicts. I mean, I live over here at Opie Schnabel, and we have conflicts between everybody. You don't have to be elderly or non-elderly. So I'm wondering if you all shouldn't look at that and maybe modify it some way because it doesn't matter whether you're elderly or non-elderly, there is conflicts anyway. And then I'm going to move along very quickly because of the time to page 57 of the plan. Resident ambassadors. MTW funds also support the Resident Ambassador Program, which provides meaningful work experience for residents. SAG has found that this program is an effective strategy to engage all residents in educational training, workforce development, and other self-sufficiency programs. Well, I don't know how you select residents to be ambassadors, because some residents are troublemakers, and the last thing they need to do is be ambassadors, which gives them the more opportunity to create problems for other residents. And so I'm wondering if that shouldn't be looked at also. I thank you so much for your time, and I thank Sarah Simo's administrative assistant for her help and her assistance in helping me with this plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next person is Ernest Bernavides.
How y'all doing? My name is Ernest Bernavides. I'd just like to thank you for saving me, because I lived in the streets for a long time. And, but I don't know what's worse, living in the streets or living where I'm at, because there's a lot of drug dealing and shooting, people walking with their rifles on their backpack. They were talking about guns earlier, but yet people walk around with them and shoot them. I call the cops don't do nothing, and we don't get nothing solved. You know, we need help. We don't need to get, I don't want to get shot, you know, sitting on my porch, or nobody else getting hurt. You know, we should live together right, not wrong. You know, and I would like to see if y'all would help us take care of them problems. You know, I call the office tells me, well, you gotta get a police report. The police don't come for a long time. They shot like maybe 30 rounds one day at each other, and then it comes to 2 hours later, the cops. You know, we can't get somebody to walk around the neighborhood undercover to see what's going on. You know, y'all saved me by giving me a house to live in. But if I can't sit on the porch or hang my clothes without getting shot, what's the purpose of living there? You know? That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person is Monica Machuca.
Yes, we have basically the same problem that he's having. We're neighbors, so we have the same problem all the time. Also, it's just sometimes there's people there that don't belong in the neighborhood, and it kind of scares us sometimes. But I just go inside the house and I stay there because it's kind of scary sometimes up there. And like the backyard, you have to hang your clothes outside because we don't have any dryers to hook up or nothing. And I'm constantly watching my clothes, you know, making sure that it doesn't run away with somebody. And it's just, I don't know what to explain. I call the police when I see things that are happening. And sometimes it takes them a long time to get there. I've seen cars getting stripped right on the street. I've seen men beating up their girlfriends there, you know, by the time we call the police, they're gone. And sometimes I'm scared to, I go up to the men and I tell them to stop beating up the girls, and I'm afraid of retaliation because they know where I live, because they see where I'm coming from. So it is kind of scary living there. I've been there only 5 years, and since the area where, the building where we were at used to be all elderly, and then they put a young woman there, and it's just like, well, the younger generation, they have different ways of thinking, and they're not very polite, and they're very messy. They eat their food or snacks, and they just throw everything in the yard, or cars that park in front of our house, they just empty all their trash to the ground, and we're constantly cleaning our area because we don't like the mess. And the garbage, where you throw your trash, there are like 4 of them in the area, but to walk to them, you either have to go to the back of everybody's yard, and there's people hanging around, little people that don't belong there. And, you don't know what kind of mindset they are, because they're not there for a reason. They're there because they're buying drugs. And so just to throw your trash, you kind of like look around trying to see, who's going to sneak out of the back doors or who's coming in from somewhere. And I just think we just need to be a little safer in there, or I don't know what to say other than it's kind of needs to be in a safer area, or maybe, see, we like to feel rested. We like to have a garden, and they took our spigots away. So I just want to say that I like where I was living at first, but now it's getting a little complicated now. And it's just basically what I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes all the individuals that signed up, Commissioner.
I just want to let the residents that spoke today know that we take what you have said today very seriously, and Mr. Hinojosa and I will speak with Chief McManus this month, and at the next month's board meeting, we will report on what we have worked out with Chief McManus, on what we will be doing with the police, because we take this very seriously, and we thank all of you for coming to talk with us today, because we feel responsible for your safety. And so thank you very much for coming to talk to us and making us aware of what is happening. Yes, sir. We have their names. We have their names. If we have your names. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on to the individual items. Consideration of appropriate action regarding Resolution 6223, authorizing the proposed 2022 to 2023 Move into Work Agency Plan. Richard Milk, that's completed. Number 6, consider the appropriate action regarding Resolution 6218, authorizing the award of a contract for roof replacement at Midasol Homes to Garland doing business as, or DBS Incorporated, through Omnia Partners Public Sector, Nationwide Purchasing Cooperative. Hector Martinez, Director, Construction.
Excuse me, do we need a motion, Richard, to take it to the board?
Oh,
Yes.
For item 6? 5.
for 5, yeah, I'm sorry.
Motion to take item 5 to the board meeting?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Number 6, there we go, okay.
Thank you.
We'll get back on track.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today, we're asking for your consideration regarding Resolution 6218, authorizing the award of contract for roof replacement at Midasol Homes. This contract, we are recommending awarding it to Garland DBS Incorporated through our Omnia Partners Purchasing Cooperative for the amount not to exceed of $1,184,202. As you might be aware, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development authorizes housing authorities to utilize cooperative and interagency agreements to simplify and expedite the procurement process. These cooperatives award contracts based on competitive procurement process. Therefore, SAHA is not required to issue its own competitive solicitation in cases where the use of available contracts is appropriate and in accordance with SAHA procurement policies. Therefore, we are asking to utilize the Omnia roofing contract to Garland Construction.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm pleased to present this item to you for your consideration. This is for a contract with a qualified roofing contractor for a comprehensive roof replacement at Saha's Midasol community. Some background information. Midasol was built in 1952. It was redeveloped about 50 years later in the early 2000s. It is a family community within Saha's public housing portfolio located on the inner west side of San Antonio. So the scope of work involves a comprehensive roof replacement of the entire community. So as you can see, Midasol is comprised of single-family homes, two-bedroom duplexes, and townhome-style multifamily apartments. The work is beyond just simply changing out shingles. I think when you look at a building envelope, the roof is amongst the most important components of keeping the structure dry and protecting it from a very destructive force in construction, which is water intrusion. So what this project does, it strips the existing roofs down to the roof decking, and we have established unit prices for roof deck replacement, so the roof decks will be inspected. They will be repaired accordingly, and then on top of the roof decking, a high-performance self-adhesing peel and stick roof membrane will be applied to the roof decking, which is a very durable product. And then on top of that, you receive a 30-year architectural shingle. And so that's just the roof. The project improves the ventilation of the attic systems in these buildings, so it'll have new roof vents on all the roofs, and replacing and upgrading the other roof vents so that it gets a complete air exchange. There's unit prices for fascia and soffit repairs and other dimensional lumber repairs as needed. And the final component is a commercial grade gutter and downspout system with mechanically fastened leaf guards, so it'll maintain the long-term performance of the gutter system. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we maintain or manage the inspections of this? I mean, is it their decision on the decking, or?
No, we have a
Okay.
Saha inspector who visually inspects every decking that they're saying needs to be replaced, and we photographically document it.
Or those that they say it can stay and it should be replaced?
We will overrule them.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So is this a new contractor? Or?
We've very successfully done roof replacement projects just like this one through Garland in the recent several years.
For Saha?
Yes, sir, and we've been extremely happy with the final product. It's a tremendous investment. It protects the buildings, and this system is virtually impenetrable.
Any other questions?
What was your name?
Hector Martinez, I'm
Hector.
Director of Construction and Sustainability.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name and.
I'm Hector Martinez. I'm the Director of Construction Services and Sustainability.
For
Saha.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. I was confused.
It's nice to, I haven't presented to the board in person in probably 2 years.
I just happen to know Hector.
It feels good to be back up here.
I was like, do you work at the movie company?
My apologies. Any other questions?
I'll entertain a motion. If there are no other questions.
I'll make a motion to move to the board meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 7, consideration of appropriate action regarding 6217, authorizing the Los Vadas Public Facility Corporation multifamily housing revenue bonds, which for the Palo Alto apartments. Looks like we've got Tim Alcott.
Hello, everybody. So we have this colorful chart in front of you, and a little history. I think it's Commissioner Weaver and Commissioner Kaplan came up with this a long time ago. But basically, what it does from bottom to top, it goes from yellow's construction, and then the very bottom of gray is ones we're considering. And you'll see Palo Alto in green is the middle one in green. And the reason we do that is because we used to do a heck of a lot of developments to be confusing where the heck we are and all in the process. And by way of history, we had previously, brought this to the board on May 20th to consider the deal. And then that was a committee meeting, and we had a lot of discussions about the AMIs and things of that nature. And then we brought it back to the board meeting, and the board approved the location and the unit mix, et cetera. And what we're doing now is the last and final stage. So based upon what we told you before, they've gone through the financing, getting the financing together, they've done architectural drawings, and they've invested a bunch of money in it. And we bring you back to this very last time to say, hey, this is what the financing looks like. And it came in very close to what was expected. The construction prices went up a little bit, but it's not to be unexpected in these trying times. And we're going to go through that. And so what we'll be asking for is for the final approval so we can close on the deal. Assuming this goes on a consent agenda, at the board meeting, we will have one last open hearing for the public where people can comment. But other than that, it will close. And then we'd start construction in April. So this is, we're at the final leg here. It's a HUD 221B4 level. So can I even go back to the other map, because this is something I think Dr. Guzman asked for, and show her that I actually did what she asked. So I want to point that out. So this is the chart that she has. Well, what the heck do these people pay, as far as rent? And the easy way to look at that is if you look at the top income limits, and a family of 3 is our typical single mom with 2 kids, and they would be in a 2-bedroom unit. And so you'll see that a family of 3's AMI is at 30% AMI is $20,000 a year. So do you see that? Hopefully, if you use at the top line, you go from the 30% and the 3, that's $20,000 a year. And then you'll see a 30% AMI unit, total number of bedrooms at the bottom, that'd be a 2-bedroom. And so on the bottom one where it says rent limits, you'll see the maximum rent for a 2-bedroom is $500 a month. And the way it works with the TDHCA is that if you multiplied or you divided $20,000, divided it by 12, then multiply it times 0.3, because it's 12 months, 12,000 divided by 12 months, and then 30% of the income, that would be $500. And so what the TDHCA does is that they are assuming everyone makes a maximum of that AMI, so if it's 0 to 30% MI, or 0 to 40, or 0 to 50, they're assuming you're making it the maximum. And that's not the best system, but it's a factual statement. And then they take 30% of that, and that's what your rent is. And that's the disadvantages of tax credit versus public housing, because public housing or Section 8 is actually used based upon your actual income. But it is what it is. I wanted to be able to explain it, and this is the easiest way to demonstrate it, because there's all these different unit sizes and family sizes, and this has all the information on a simple chart. So I wanted to provide that. And
I think this is a good way to look at it. And also, just to point out, so for the same family of 3, if they were at 20% AMI, their income would be at $13,000 as opposed to $20,000. So you can easily see that someone at 20% AMI would not be able to afford a 30% unit. So I just wanted to point that out. The people that can afford to rent a 30% unit are very close to 30% AMI generally.
Yep.
The housing that we're most familiar is the housing that is in that chart, in that multicolored chart that you've presented to us so many times. Can you go back to that chart? Okay. So is Louis proposing Papoon's
Yes,
development in that chart,
absolutely. And he has three of them on there, actually.
in that chart?
Yeah, and can I point them out? And I can tell you what's a little bit unclear. And
Exactly.
let me explain why. So like you'll see his is like Mira Vista, it's in the middle. And so that's one of them. You'll see Majestic Ranch is on there as well. And they say Hogan, but that's also Steve Papoon. And then he has another one. Is it on there? It's like, Mike, I can barely see that far, honestly. So,
It's not on there, it's one that's already constructed.
okay, so he has another one that he's working on right now called Palo,
But this is, okay, but this is what's confusing me, Tim. My understanding was, from that chart, that for the first 15 years, they were going to collect the rent, and they were going to make the money for the first 15 years. And then they were going to sell us the properties. But he spoke like we were going to get it from the beginning, and we're not.
But actually, so that's what's so neat about Steve Papoon. His structure is a little bit different than the typical structure. So your typical developer, I can say NRP or a Franklin, on those deals, there's typically a 70-30 developer fee split. And that means 70% of the developer fee goes to the developer and 30% goes to Saha. And then there's 50% of the cash flow is split between the developer and us. But
For the first 15 years?
Yeah, but Steve does it differently.
Oh.
And Steve says, you know what? I don't want any of the cash flow. He said, you can have 100% of it. And so we get, on his deals, it's a 70-30 split. I don't know how much of that should be doing in closed session, by the way. Diana's probably giving me an eye here, but, because every deal is different. But,
There's not that many people here anyway.
yeah, no, it's on the internet, but.
We're on TV.
Yeah, but, do you want to talk in closed session, or do you want to do it here?
All right. Okay.
But the high level is that, quite frankly, his deals are much more favorable
Okay.
to us. And so everything he said was 100% true.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure, because I kept going,
Yeah, and
But
so,
let me clarify, Tim, there's also tax credit equity going into his deals, which means we are a 1% holder, and the tax credit partner owns the vast majority of the transactions. So we don't take ownership until year 15.
and that's in any deal. But so what I think what he was saying, you're right, Ed, but what he was saying was, you know, I'm taking all the guarantees on it. It's all risk on me. But I'm talking about, I said, I'm Steve Papoon. You're getting all the cash flow, and at year 15, you buy it for the outstanding debt.
okay.
You know, and so you're getting it for the outstanding debt, whatever the debt is on the property, and you take all that tax credit equity that you got for free, and that's
Okay.
making it much more affordable to you.
Okay.
But yeah, he's a pretty honest and trustworthy guy, and he's
Okay.
actually, on all his projects, and in his social life as well, he's very much for veterans. You probably picked that up.
Yes.
And he markets to veterans and does a lot of things for veterans, and that's one of
Okay,
his missions.
okay. I just want, because we've been going through these deals, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the deals
And the
well.
other thing that I'm going to say is, I don't know how to do it any more clear, but you'll see that his say they're all at 60% AMI. And so the reality is they're not. The reason is he puts the lure on there as if they're all 60% AMI, but he says you can put in whatever you want. You can put in 10% AMI, you can put in 15, 20, 30. I just have a contract with the lenders that says I got to meet a debt coverage ratio of 1.15. And he said, as long as the average income, you hit that, he goes, Tim, God bless you. You want to put in, people that are 10% AMI, that's fine. But because the LURA, Land Use Restriction Agreement, says 100% at 60, we categorize them all as at 60% AMI on the chart. But the reality is, as he pointed out, is that we have project-based vouchers there. We have, there are people that are, or not project-based vouchers, excuse me, we have Section 8 vouchers there that are serving much lower, and he allows us the flexibility to actually serve lower. So we actually are serving lower AMIs than actually is reflected in that chart, but we put that chart as if we were doing the maximum per the LURA. And so I'm not on,
I'm misleading to a favorable way, I guess, so it is what it is.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yep. And so go next slide, and we'll go next slide again. And so this is Palo Alto, and that's what we're talking about today. So this is another really good developers, and they're online. It's Joe Pollock and Mark Gregg. We've really have enjoyed working with them and over the last few months. And as I mentioned, we brought this to the board before. We negotiated the AMIs. On this particular deal, it's also unique, and those are interested, that after year 5, we get all the cash flow. And so it's not like your typical deal until you were year 15. After year 5, it's much earlier that we will have all the cash flow. And what's nice about that, at that point in time, we can put in deeper affordable units to the extent we want, because we're controlling all the cash flow on that deal. But it's 336 units. This is what it's near, and this is the unit mix. This is what we agreed to with them when we brought them to it before. It's a HUD-insured loan, so we get lower, interest rates because of that. They're also, because it's location, it's, you saw that it's on 410 South and Palo Alto Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sound attenuation and things of that nature because of the HUD requirements, and also we do it anyway. You'll see it's $67 million. Next slide. And here's the, how that $67 million breaks out. We have a split on the construction, on the developer fee, and we talked about the cash flow earlier. And you'll see we have a contingency for cost overruns. The only thing that's really changed on this is the construction cost did go up a little bit, but we came in and we got it financed. And so they're really ready to, start construction. They're using a general contractor called Axia. They've done 3 or 4 deals with them. I haven't done one with them yet, but they've had success on one of their deals in Odessa and somewhere else. I don't remember the other places. But they said they've done very well with them in the past, and this will be new for us to actually use them as a GC here in San Antonio. But they spoke very highly about them. Berkshire Hathaway's affiliate, I think it's called Affordable Housing Partners, is the equity on this deal. And so they're providing the equity. And, so I'm happy to say that it came in as we previously said way back in May, and they're ready to close on this deal. And I know some of the commissioners are new and weren't here back then, and some of you have been around, but it's just how the train works. Some of these things take a while, because the HUD loans typically take about 8 months. The time we bring it to the board until you go through the HUD process to get all the approvals, and it's an 8-month process. And so as board members switch out, they don't have the benefit of the history of how we got here. But this is the last stage. And with the board approval next month, then they'll start construction.
Okay.
And we have city council approval. City council, the representative over there, has endorsed this project as well.
Okay.
And this is teachers, by the way, teachers housing. Talk about teachers. This is who would live here. It's the market study was all workforce housing, what was really needed, and so it's these different AMIs.
Is this property outside the loop?
It's just on the hardcore. Can you pull up that map again, please?
I was trying to, because I know that area, but I was just trying.
It's the orange and so that's 410 on the south side. And
okay, it is outside across from Palo Alto College.
It's right there on the corner.
Okay.
And so one of my concerns early on was, hey, it's so close to the highway, what's the noise going to be like? And they've gone through the sound attenuation study with HUD to make sure it's not too loud. The other thing is there's a site map, and so the entrances are off 410 there. And so they stations the buildings were a little bit further away from the highway, and kind of deal with that as well.
That area is growing quite a bit.
It's booming down there. It's also in a QCT, so you get a basis based on the tax credits, so there's less debt.
Toyota.
Are there any additional questions? Take a motion.
Motion to move item number 7 to the board meeting consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 8, consideration and appropriate action regarding Resolution 6219, authorizing the award of a contract for maintenance, repair, and operations, supplies, and related services to W.W. Granger through Omni Partners. George Ayala, Director of Procurement.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. George Ayala, Director of Procurement. So today we are asking for your consideration regarding Resolution 6219, authorizing the award of contract for repair, maintenance, repair, and operation supplies and related services to Granger. through the Omnia National Purchasing Cooperative for an annual amount not to exceed $1 million. SACO would like to participate with WW Granger in the online digital marketplace. The items available from the MRO supplier are necessary to maintain the effective operations of the agency. These materials and supplies provided daily maintenance, repair, and replacement, allowing staff and property management to respond to both agency and resident needs without maintaining a warehouse inventory. MRO items are available through the award included but not limited to building materials, hardware cabinets, motors, pumps, paints and coating, plumbing equipment, power tools, windows, doors, cleaning products, and other cleaning products. So basically, what we're asking is for the commissioners to allow us to add an additional supplier to our vendor database, and just to make sure that we are able to keep up with the demands of our agency. Questions?
Do you have any questions?
You want to add somebody?
No, that's it, unless you have any questions, sir.
So I thought he said he wanted to add somebody to the list. No?
Yes, so we're asking to add Granger to our list of suppliers. So currently, we do have other suppliers as HC Supply that we get these items from. Okay. However, we would like to add Granger as one of our alternatives for procuring the items needed for our maintenance and repair.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea, because a lot of times HD Supply right now doesn't have a lot of product, and it keeps maintenance from being able to complete the work done. So it'd be good to have another company that they can go to.
So moved.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And I assume number 9, same thing.
Yes, sir.
You want to add Amazon?
So number 9 is it's in similar fashion. We are asking for the board to allow us to participate in Amazon's online digital marketplace that will allow staff to access products from suppliers for across multiple product categories for technology, maintenance, repair and operations, and office-based accessories, decor products, and related supplies. Mm-hmm. So basically, we are trying to build our data pool of vendors in order for us to get those much-needed items in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
All in motion?
So moved.
Got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes as well. Thank you. Item number 10, discussion regarding resident concerns.
We don't have any additional items to consider at this point.
Okay. Do we need to go into closed?
I do want to add something there real quick, please. Where are my notes? On the speakers we had, there was a concern about clothes dryers at Alazan. Do they not have laundry rooms? And are they having problems with their washers or dryers? They say that they have to hang their clothes outside.
That is correct, Commissioner. They do not have laundry rooms, but they do have hookups in the units or outside the units. So this is obviously a community that was built in the 40s. So that just was, we still have the clothes line hangers,
Right.
in the back.
But they do have washer dryer connections.
They have connections, yes.
Okay. And trash receptacles, she was saying that there were like 4. Is that just in their area, or is that for the entire community, that she says she has to walk so far to?
So Alazan, it's through multiple blocks. Mm-hmm. So the trash cans are not for the whole community. So they're scattered throughout based off of the number of buildings that we have. So it could be that it's maybe not right there located next to her building.
Okay, thank you.
No, I have a question. Commissioner Casillas, in some of our buildings, do we have facilities for washers and dryers?
Like where I live, yes, there are. Each floor has their own laundry room.
They do?
Yes. And they have one washer or one dryer. It'd be nice if they would put 2 of each. and there is room for them, but they do have one washer, one dryer on each floor for 10 units.
So some of the senior facilities, they actually have a public washer and dryer per floor, as Commissioner Casillas is mentioning. That's the case at Victoria Plaza also. As we go through and redesign new communities and try to build new communities, we're really taking a look at putting washer and dryer hookups. But now staff is considering putting washer and dryers themselves, the equipment, inside of public housing units so that people can get their laundry done at home as opposed to going to a laundromat or going some other place to get it done.
So as we are redesigning Alazan, have we told that to the architects to either do a washer and or put them in the units?
We have said what we want, and I'm sure the community's also expressing the same thing, because we've heard that from many community members.
Okay.
So as they go through and do their initial collection of data, I'm sure they're going to get that comment.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people in Alazan can't afford washer and dryers, so the hookups may be there, but they can't afford to buy the washer and
that
dryers.
doesn't make sense to me to have hookups.
Now, if we do provide them, do we also maintain them?
Right.
We would, that is one of the challenges we have, and we're looking very closely at how we would do the maintenance. Or whether we have maybe another additional washer and dryer in a public area, so that if someone is home unit breaks while they're waiting for it to be repaired, they would have access to a public washer and dryer. So yes, we're looking at all of those things right now.
Okay, because I mean, it seems a little rich to have it in each unit, but every 3 or 4 or something like that, we really should do some research on that.
Yeah, so as we go through the planning process for Alazan, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
With no other items in 10, we can move into closed session. Victoria, did you want to lead us into that?
All right, the board now will go into closed session to deliberate the management, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of certain real properties and obtain legal advice regarding related legal issues pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, real property, and Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, potential litigation regarding Victoria Plaza, and also the board will deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee, and obtain legal advice regarding legal issues pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, personnel matters, and Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with attorney, regarding president and CEO performance evaluation process. Time now is 2:32 p.m.
Okay.
Go into
Closed
closed.
So commissioners, as we clear the room, I just wanted to mention now,
Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. There's been a motion to adjourn and a second. Thank you for being such a good board.
All in.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you, board members, for being so faithful to the side.
And just, there was no report or resource, so we just didn't have to do those, just to clarify on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Lawyer. Yes. We shall see you
Recording
in 2
stopped.
weeks. In 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. Lo quisiera una vez